If you're still harboring a question about whether purpose-led companies can not only make a big difference to all their stakeholders, but actually beat their competitors who aren't being purpose-led, then you've likely heard of these companies here, which I'm showing you, which are really lighthouses for us about how we can embrace the concept of purpose. But also, lighthouses can be a little bit intimidating, can't they? You look at these companies, and they're great, great examples. But I share this slide with you to all of these companies are clients of the Mind at Work. So I've spent the last 20 years with my colleagues working with these companies, really taking a very serious step towards the integration of purpose into the interconnected fields of leadership, culture, and strategy, informing their whole business models. And I hope by seeing these everyday names, you can take some comfort to realize that purpose is no longer on the edge of our society. It's really becoming more and more embraced. But I would say to you this: if you are becoming more and more interested in purpose, you are still a pioneer. The dominant business model is not purpose-led. So I stand before you not as an optimist. I think optimism is actually quite dangerous for us right now, as a species, I would say. But as a realist, and to point out for you today, share some of my experience of working as a practitioner in this field for many years, about what questions and considerations you really need to address wherever you are in the journey to take it to the next step. The first thing I want to say about purpose is it is intensely personal. Now, purpose exists in all walks of life. What's the purpose of my life? What's the purpose of this meeting? What's the purpose of me as a father? What's the purpose of me as a son, as a leader? It exists in many, many dimensions. But if you are going to make a significant change, a difference, you cannot take the personal element out of it. It cannot just be a conversation about company purpose. So what is purpose? That fundamental question, what is it? Well, it starts right in here. It's an intensely human thing. And if you think of yourself here and your life situation out here, that person, that meeting, that email, purpose is really the bridge that answers the question, am I to engage with this? And if I am to engage with it, how am I going to engage with it? That's the fundamental role of purpose. It's a bridge of engagement between you and your world. And it's moving every moment. It's a very, very dynamic field. You don't just have one purpose. You have many purposes that shift on the context. But purpose is essentially the meaningful engagement towards something that matters to you. You cannot take that personal element out of it, even when you're thinking about what your company's purpose is or could be claimed to be. To embrace this intensely intimate human dimension of purpose, we need to take a little step back to consider what is the human condition? What does it take for us to be genuinely purposeful? And to do that, we need to consider that at any moment in time, we are existing in one of three modes, one of three modalities. You might even say just like a computer. Mode one is that we have healthy automatic function inside us. So right now, you don't need to spend very much thought thinking about how to regulate your breathing, regulate your body temperature. That is being handled for you automatically, and you might say with some relief, without any thought on your part. Mode one. The second mode is that you, at any moment in time, can go into an automatic mode, which, unbeknownst to you, is actually limited. So, for example, as I'm walking across the stage here, I have a habit of rocking on that right foot. I open it out. It's a limited automatic mode. Why is it limited? Because it actually changes. It's not the proper, fully sustainable alignment of my body. And until somebody like a friend or a professional points that out to me, I can miss that mode because so much of my time, I'm not awake to it. Second mode, I'll come back to that. It's very important. Third mode is deliberateness. I choose consciously how I'm going to engage with this person, this situation, this task, this email. Deliberate mode. Now, in the mechanical life, that third mode of deliberation, of purposefulness, is actually quite small. It's quite small. I would encourage you to not underestimate how much of your life can be in limited automatic, particularly these days where your attention is it's threatened at any moment in time. How many of you, even here, can honestly answer the question that right this minute now, you know why you're here? You have a conscious purpose for why you are here. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself also. How many of you, like me, have become distracted by your device while you've been sitting in that chair? Yes, this is the reality of our lives now, isn't it? And then suddenly I go from being purposeful to being distracted. And then I flick a few more, and before I know it, I'm lost in a world of distraction and limited automatic living. The purposeful life, however, takes on a very different dimension. Now look at this, it's very important. Notice that healthy automatic mode is completely unchanged. You don't want to mess about with that. But you can see that the limited automatic quotient has gone down and been replaced with a deliberate engagement with life. Now this is very important. As Jeannie was saying this morning, growth is not easy. You don't get learning in your comfort zone. And I want to say to you that that shift, the shift in our humanity becoming more purposeful, is not easy. It takes the real cultivation and habit of consciousness to move yourself from a mechanical life to a purposeful life. 2 questions. First one, which of those humans do you think is the higher performing? Second question, which of those modalities is not replaceable by AI? If we define humanity in the mechanical life or encourage it, and I would say many of the technology companies actually have a limited purpose to do that to us, then we will be replaced by AI. And be under no illusion that there are many, many CEOs and ELTs out there right now looking to wholesale replace human functionality with artificial intelligence. If you allow yourself, your life to be governed by algorithmic processes in the body, you will be replaced yourself by a machine. It's common sense. But machines do not have consciousness. They do not. If you hear that question, does AI or a machine have consciousness? The person asking the question does not understand what consciousness is. It's a human dimension claimable only by us because we bring meaning and intentionality to our world. The implications of this are really enormous, and that's the first thing I want to leave with you is don't leave yourself out of the purpose conversation. But when you move to look at your influence and impact as a company, consider this vital question. You've heard it hundreds and hundreds of times before, but notice your reaction to it. Notice the stubbornness of the myth that the answer to that question is maximizing shareholder value. That myth, that story has been propagated for at least 50 years. And it is still the prevalent modality. It will affect your answer to the next question, which is why does your company exist? I would encourage you actually not to really ask those questions at all, but rather to ask this. what is my company's higher purpose? And to encourage you in answering that question, I invite you to go back into history. I would suggest to you that every single one of your companies started with a person or a small group of people who were passionate about giving a service to somebody that made a difference to them. Every single one of your companies. And purpose is intimately linked with giving a service to others. And it's intimately linked to giving a service that makes a difference to them. Most of the people who work in your companies are not intimately connected with the idea of making profit, but they are intimately connected with the difference they make in each moment, in each day. And that's the thing to orientate your company towards if you're really, really serious about being purpose-led. That your attention, your orientation goes into the difference that you make each day in service of other people. So look at the way that this business school has created its purpose. To nurture innovators, very helpful. They're looking for innovators to shape a better future for all. Higher purpose, i.e., what is the most normative, the most elevating difference that our everyday service can make? That's where I invite you to look. It's not a communications act or a marketing act. It's an act of looking at what is the service we actually give. What's the difference that that service makes in those very micro moments, and then, of course, expanded to make great impact. The second question, which has been answered, I think, by every single person who's been up on this stage so far today, is the fundamental question is, are you apart from the society and the ecosystems in which you play, or are you a part of them? That is a fundamental purpose question for you. And I would say we're still working in the paradigm where that is the prevalent model. Let's not be optimistic about this. Let's be realistic that that is still the prevalent model. The massive attention goes to shareholders and the externalization of costs to the wider stakeholder community. Be realistic about it. That is still the prevalent model, and you will still be competing with it if you take the bold, courageous, difficult step of being a purpose-led community. You will be a company competing with that business model. And the question for you is, can we make a different business model where our fundamental philosophy is that we are part of something, not a part of it? Can we make that better than them? Can we outperform them? Like Southwest does. Southwest has created, in a period of time, a long period of decades, created more shareholder value than all the rest of the American airlines put together. It did it by not focusing solely on shareholder value. It focused on how can we create an ecosystem. That's the incredibleness of the story. And then purpose can become not a binary choice, but actually a flywheel that helps you create all. So that's your challenge. And it is a big innovation challenge. It's not a small paradigm shift. Can you, sitting here with your colleagues and with your ecosystem, create a business model that outperforms that model? Because it's going to be around. It's going to be around in Italy, and it's going to be around, I would suggest to you, in China, in India. It's going to be around in America, where the shareholder perceptions are different. So it might just be that this is a uniquely European challenge where we can take the lead. Notice Federico using the word renaissance. I think it's actually really interesting for us to embrace that we might be in a renaissance of the purpose-led company, creating a flywheel with a very, very different business model than the ones that we have mastered over the last decades. If you get all that right, then the hope to you, the hope and the ultimate hope of purpose, which is so much about that connection to meaning, is that you can create this rocket, this propulsion of performance, whereby highly, highly motivated people who know why, that shapes how they engage, which leads ultimately to creating greater and greater outcomes. And that, I think, is the promise of purpose to be realized by all of us in this room. Thank you.